Bad debts under a government loan scheme for SMEs are stacking up. A new priority visa service for BNO visa applicants criticized by the Chinese embassy in the UK. And in western Japan, swollen rivers as tropical storm Lan sweeps past the region. Hello and welcome to TVB News. During the pandemic, the government rolled out a 100% government-guaranteed loan scheme to help small and medium-sized businesses weather the difficult times. Under the program, loans totaling some $130 billion were provided to enterprises. But worries loom as companies will soon have to repay not just the loan interest, but also the principal. And firms that couldn't manage their cash flow might go under. Jackie Lin reports.
This takeaway shop was run by restaurateur Anthony, who also manages several other eateries. Like hundreds of catering businesses which struggled under the pandemic in Hong Kong, he was handed a financial lifeline from the government's special 100% loan guarantee under the SME Financing Guarantee Scheme.
大家都係屬於用一個好低成本，淨係還息。
Anthony said restaurants had to repay just the interest back then, but starting in October, they will have to pay off the outstanding principal, which will prove to be a hefty burden, especially when the economy has not picked up steam nor their income. The government guaranteed loan scheme was launched in April 2020. Each eligible small and medium-sized business could borrow $9 million with a 10-year loan repayment period. Some 38,000 businesses have benefited, involving more than $130 billion of loans.
Edward
Lam, president of the Hong Kong SME Development Federation, said the city's economy has recovered more slowly than expected. He fears some firms will go bust after failing to pay up the loan. Lam suggests prolonging the repayment period from 10 to 15 years. That could prevent mass layoffs and job losses too. This as bad debts under the government's loan scheme are already stacking up. The default cases involved some $400 million in 2021, and in late July this year, $6 billion. Lawmaker Holden Chow said there is a need for the government to help these businesses tide over their difficult times. Otherwise, the government won't be able to shoulder the bad debts. In response, the Commerce and Economic Development Bureau said it will closely monitor the scheme's latest situation and review its effectiveness accordingly. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Tropical storm Lan lashed central and western Japan with heavy rain and high winds after making landfall there on Tuesday. Rivers swelled and flooding was reported in some areas today. Videos posted on social media showed the muddy brown torrents in the swollen Saji River in the western Tottori Prefecture. Roads caved in by the riverbank. The storm approached from the Pacific Ocean and made landfall Tuesday morning at the southern tip of Wakayama Prefecture, some 400 kilometers southwest of Tokyo. Although it had weakened to a tropical storm by Tuesday evening, forecasters have warned that concentrated rain is still possible across a wide area. Authorities have urged residents to avoid unessential outings and warned of potential mudslides, flooding, and thunderstorms. The storm is expected to veer east towards Hokkaido over waters between Japan and the Korean peninsula today. North Korea has broken nearly a month of silence on a U.S. soldier who crossed the heavily armed Korean border last month. The official Korean Central News Agency reported that the soldier, who was black, told North Korean authorities he did so after becoming disillusioned with inequality in American society and racial discrimination within the U.S. Army. It was Pyongyang's first official confirmation of the detention of Private Travis King. He had served in South Korea and sprinted into the north on July 18th while on a civilian tour of the so-called truce village of Panmunjom. The North Korean report said investigations into King's illegal entry would continue. A U.S. Defense Department official, speaking on condition of anonymity, said Washington had no way to verify North Korea's claims about King. The official said the Pentagon was working to bring King back to the U.S. In the United States, Japan and South Korea are expected to launch a series of joint initiatives on technology and defense when the country's leaders gather at Camp David this Friday. Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un heralded Pyongyang's ties with Russia in a letter to the country's president, Vladimir Putin. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The talks between US President Joe Biden, South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida at Camp David will come amid increasing concerns about the nuclear threat posed by North Korea. It will be the first time the leaders of the three countries have gathered for a trilateral summit instead of on the sidelines of international meetings. South Korea's president spoke about the summit in a speech marking the 78th anniversary of Korea's liberation from Japan's 35-year colonial rule in 1945 on Tuesday. Yoon said the gathering will set a new milestone in trilateral cooperation. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken told reporters there will be concrete measures to enhance the capacity to provide for security in the three countries and the wider Indo-Pacific region. The Camp David summit is expected to anger North Korea. Pyongyang argues US moves to bolster military cooperation with South Korea and Japan are pushing it to reinforce its own military capability. A White House spokesman played down fears that the summit will stoke tensions with Pyongyang.
There is no reason to view this summit as provocative or any kind of step or effort to incite tensions. What this is about is deepening our partnership and collaboration on a number of areas that we believe are in the mutual shared interest of our three countries.
China, however, denounced the summit. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said Beijing opposes relevant countries forming various cliques and their practices of exacerbating confrontation and jeopardizing other countries' strategic security. Meanwhile, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin exchanged letters and pledged to develop their ties into a long-standing strategic relationship. The two expressed hope that good bilateral relations will contribute to the firm stability and security of the Korean Peninsula and the whole of Northeast Asia. Daniel, TV News.
In Hawaii, the death toll from the Maui wildfires that consumed the historic town of Lahaina has reached 106. The White House says President Joe Biden will visit Maui as soon as possible, but he doesn't want his presence to interrupt recovery and cleanup efforts. Meanwhile, one eyewitness saw a power line falling onto the dry grass below, igniting a row of flames. The footage he live-streamed is now key evidence in a class action lawsuit. Tracy Furness has more.
Oh, this is live right across the street from my house. Freaking power line just went down.
Awakened at dawn by howling winds tearing through his neighborhood, Shane True saw a power pole snap, sparking as it fell onto dry grass, quickly igniting a row of flames. He called emergency services and then turned to Facebook to live stream his attempts to fight the blaze, including wetting down his property with a garden hose. Now True's video that captured the early moments of what has become the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century is key evidence pointing to the fallen utility line as a possible cause. Hawaii Electric is facing criticism for not shutting off the power amid the high wind warnings and keeping it on as a dozen power poles began to topple. A class action lawsuit has already been filed, seeking to hold the company responsible for the many deaths.
The wind was so crazy, nothing could have determined that it would snap those lines. Because if it was blowing the roof off my house, honestly, it was like, I wouldn't blame them. Like, I wouldn't put it like, oh, it's your fault, because the wind was crazy. It was smoking so hard.
President Joe Biden has said he would like to visit Maui as soon as possible. It would be in the coming weeks, according to officials, to avoid disrupting recovery efforts. Meanwhile, the U.S. military is supporting FEMA to provide assistance to residents of Lahaina.
Right now, our efforts, as I mentioned at the top, are really focused on search and rescue and working within the community to whether it's flowing in supplies or knitting closely together with FEMA to make sure that they have everything that they need when they're conducting these search and rescue operations. That's really our focus right now.
The fire started on August 8th and charred 13 kilometers in hours. It destroyed or damaged more than 2,200 buildings, 86% of them residential, causing an estimated $5.5 billion worth of damage. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
In the U.S. state of Virginia, the mother of a 6-year-old boy who shot and wounded his teacher pleaded guilty Tuesday to a charge of felony neglect. This came 7 months after the boy used her handgun to critically wound the educator in a classroom full of students. The boy took the unlocked gun from his mother's purse on top of a dresser. Prosecutors agreed to drop a misdemeanor charge of reckless storage of a firearm against mother Deja Taylor. As part of the plea agreement, Taylor will only face up to 6 months in prison. Sentencing will take place on October 27th. Still ahead, Russia releases footage of a raid on a Ukraine-bound cargo ship in the Black Sea. A fatal traffic accident in Kwintong. And 50% discount on MTR fares this Saturday. In the Dominican Republic, a powerful explosion at a bakery left 11 people dead and more than 50 others injured. 10 other people remain unaccounted for. The explosion happened at a bakery in the commercial center of San Cristobal near the country's capital Monday afternoon. Firefighters were still searching through the smoldering rubble Tuesday, while people outside hospitals were looking for missing loved ones. President Luis Abinader visited the city to meet those affected. The cause of the explosion is not yet clear. British national overseas visa applicants can now get their applications processed within 5 working days if they need to travel urgently. This measure comes after the UK government announced a new priority visa service for BNO visa applicants early this week. Mimo Singhai reports.
Since the new BNO immigration pathway was launched in 2021, a notable number of Hong Kong residents have moved to Britain. According to the British Home Office, over 144,000 people have obtained BNO visas and left the SAR. On Monday, the UK Home Office launched a priority visa service, allowing individuals to obtain their BNO visas in 5 working days if they need to travel urgently. On its social media page, the department says such a measure continues the UK's unwavering commitment to the people of Hong Kong. To apply for the visa under the new service, applicants who are in Britain must pay £500, which is almost 5,000 Hong Kong dollars. However, the service will cost them £573 if they are overseas. The BNO visa program allows Hong Kongers to stay, study and work in the UK for 5 years before granting them the opportunity to apply for settlement to live permanently in the country. The Chinese embassy in the UK, meanwhile, said the BNO visa program proves what the UK government did was not aimed at the so-called protection of Hong Kong people, but an attempt to discredit and disrupt Hong Kong. The embassy urges the UK authorities to stop their hypocritical performances and stop misleading Hong Kong people. In Hong Kong, the New People's Party lawmaker Dominic Lee believes the new service aims to encourage more Hong Kong residents to leave the city for the UK. Lee expressed his concern over whether or not those immigrants will continue to take advantage of the city's social welfare.
We believe that the resources of Hong Kong is limited and the taxpayer dollar are important, and that's why we think most of our taxpayers' dollars should go back to support the people who treat Hong Kong as their home as the permanent home, we would like to check, for example, the living situation, the immigration record, the schooling information, as far as the working information, the tax-paying information, and so on and so forth. The government will be able to make a better call as to whether or not a person has left Hong Kong for good. So our social welfare and resources should not be allocated to those people.
Former Security Secretary Lai Tong-kok said authorities will also need to follow the standards of the Personal Data Ordinance when they obtain an immigrant's information. Memos 9, TVB News.
A car crashed into a road divider in Kwun Tong this morning, killing its 21-year-old male driver and injuring 4 passengers. This video shows the black vehicle moving at high speed before it crashed into the barrier. The car was badly damaged. Debris from the vehicle littered the ground. Inside the car, a deflated airbag can be seen. The driver was trapped in the wreckage and unconscious. It took firefighters about an hour to free the driver. He was sent to the Chung Kwan O Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. The injured passengers were sent to Queen Elizabeth Hospital and United Christian Hospital for treatment. The crash happened at around 6:30 this morning when the car was approaching a roundabout on Cha Kuo Ling Road near the Chung Kwan O Lam Tin Tunnel entrance. 2 youths were injured while playing on a trampoline in North Point. One suffered serious head injuries and is being treated in hospital. The incident happened yesterday inside a unit in Kodak House on Java Road. Police received reports at around 3 p.m. yesterday about 2 people injured while playing on a trampoline. Both individuals were conscious when officers arrived. One 14-year-old non-Chinese youth sustained rib injuries but refused to be hospitalized. Another 17-year-old local youth had critical head injuries resulting in the loss of blood and is being treated at the Pamela Yude Nether Seoul Eastern Hospital. Passengers can enjoy a 50% fare discount while traveling on the MTR this Saturday. And that's not just limited to train journeys, but also light rail and MTR bus services. The half-priced fare is also applied to cross-border trips to and from Lo Wu and Lok Ma Chau stations. The railway company will step up the frequency of their services. The discounts were to make up for the impact of earlier train service disruptions under the MTR service performance rebate policy. That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.